Okay, Dan, over to you.
Great. Well, hey, I just want to reiterate what the organizers are saying about participation, volunteering, activity. All three of them are great examples of when you do that, great things come. I was just talking before everybody else got on. Amy just landed 90 days ago. So participating in leadership and volunteering is a great way to raise your profile, and it gives you something to talk about when you're talking to employers. And BoulderNet's a great group to do that with. So, and all three of them are doing a lot of things, so they could use help and just love your company. So I encourage everybody else to kind of talk to one of the leaders and thinking about joining the leadership group and just adding to that. It's a real benefit for you as well as giving to everybody else. But it's great. And Don, thanks for that great introduction. I really appreciate that. And as he said, I'm the founder and president of Thriive Career Coaching. And what I'm really passionate about is helping you identify your unique skills and experience, and then articulating that in a way that makes you irresistible to your target companies. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to help you identify your distinct value, how to create and then communicate those values in a way that the hiring managers and the hiring companies see you and they wonder where the heck you've been, because they want to get you on that quickly. So we're going to talk about your brand, how to build that and how to create that. And it's about executing in the interview. So one of the benefits of participating in BoulderNet is that I offer a free consultation, a Zoom consultation, 20-minute consultation to participants. And it's about talking about your career journey, seeing about ways we might be able to help you. What I'm going to do, since the email, like Don said, has two eyes, in the chat, I am putting a link. So take a second, if you would, and go ahead and copy. Did that actually go out to everyone? Did everybody see that?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. So take a second, copy that email address. So at the end, if it's something that would be valuable to you, I offer that free 20-minute consultation to help you accelerate your career and journey in this career search mode. So take advantage of that. That's one of the benefits of participating in BoulderNet. So just a little bit of an overview before we get into the detail. When you're thinking about this hiring market, what you want to do is stay ahead of the curve. You want to stay at the top of every company's hiring list. So when they're looking to make that decision, you're the #1 choice for them. It's about staying ahead of your competition. There's a lot of people out in the job market right now, as we know. So you want to be ahead of them. And what we're going to talk about today are the job search skills, the strategies, and then the tactics to execute to help you do that. As the organizer said, networking is powerful, and that's why you're here today. I'm kind of preaching to the choir because you know that it's powerful. That's why you're here today. And I'm going to help you in networking and in the interview articulate your value. And we're going to talk about two very specific strategies to help you do that. Your unique value proposition, I call that the branding statement, and then your success stories. These are your, what I call source stories. We'll talk about those in detail. So those are the things that we're going to work on today in this interviewing workshop. Now, how are we going to execute today? So this is going to be a bit different maybe from what you're used to. Often I think you're used to gathering information, learning, hearing. Today, this is going to be about interaction. The value that you're going to take away today is if you participate. So in each of these concepts, I'm going to go step by step. In each of the concepts, there's going to be a moment where I'm going to say, okay, who would like to share their example? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through the understanding of what it is, strategy. I'm going to talk to you about how to do it, tactics, and then I'm going to give you a minute to create your version of the item that I'm talking about. And when we come back together, then I'm going to say, okay, who would like to share their example? Now, there's two big benefits for this. One, if you're the person that's sharing, you're going to get some direct coaching. You're going to get feedback from me about how to optimize the things that we're talking about. Secondly, you're going to be a giver because you're going to help everybody else. Because when I have the example to help guide someone, we're actually talking to everyone, of course, and we're helping guide everybody. So this is going to be very interactive. In addition to these moments where I'd say, okay, who would like to share? Questions are really welcome and invited during this time. So if you have questions about the material, please say, I have a question. Okay, let's get started. So let's talk about that branding statement. Let's define what it is. So the branding statement is a brief professional introduction. You know, in marketing, we use a term called a UVP, or unique value proposition. That's what this is. And by the way, if you haven't connected to the fact yet, you are marketing yourself in this process. You're even selling yourself. And to some people, that can be a scary word, but I love it, because when I think of that, it's about talking about something you love, something that you're passionate about, something you're connected to, something you're really good at, and sharing that with others. That's what you're doing in a job search. You're using networking to create opportunities to talk to people who are influential in some way in companies that you're interested in. And this is the process to communicate your value so they know that you have what they want. Understand that the context of the branding statement is forward-looking. It's actually aspirational. So you're not talking about what you did yesterday. It's talking about your target, where you want to go, what you want to be professionally. And understand that everything we're talking about today is customized. And customization should be an underlying thing of everything in your career search, because it's never about just the best stuff that you have or that you do. It's the best skills you have that are targeted to the specific audience to whom you're speaking at that moment. So think about that. This is meant to inform them, give them information about you, your value, and it's meant to intrigue them. It's meant to have them ask you specific questions about what you're sharing, because that's when you learn what's important to them. And that's really important, to learn what's important to them. So let's talk about where you use this branding statement. Well, most importantly, especially in the context of today's information, it's about the interview. Because today in the interview, often the first question that you'll receive from them is something generic. It sounds innocuous, like, hey, before we start, Dan, why don't you just tell me about yourself? But we know that it's actually a very pointed question. They want to know, are you focused? Are you focused on business? Are you focused on them? So this branding statement that we're going to create today is very focused. It's focused on business and it's focused on them. So it's the answer to the first question in the interview. Additionally, use it verbally when you're networking. Trent mentioned that normally at the beginning of BoulderNet, everybody goes around, takes a turn to introduce themselves. That's the moment where in the future, hopefully, you're going to use this created and customized and refined branding statement. That's a moment to do that. And then in written form, it's also very powerful. You use it on the top of LinkedIn in your About section. It's a core of that. And then also on the top portion of your resume on that opening paragraph. So this is powerful. It's used in so many specific places in this career search. So it's really important. All right, so let's talk more about it. Structurally, it's very concise. It's only 3 sentences. The first sentence is your name, your aspirational title, again, where you want to go, and a couple of adjectives. The second sentence is the known for sentence. The core of this is the top 3 skills that are desired by that target company. Very specific. Think about what you've heard in the discussions in networking. Think about what you've seen in the job rec. Identify the top 3 skills. That's what goes in that second sentence. And then the third sentence, the last sentence, is what I call the passion statement. Why do I talk about and why do I use that term passion? Because we've learned that hiring managers don't just want somebody who's going to become what I call a paycheck hunter, who's going to come, take their money, go do as little as possible and go home. They want people that really actually like what they do. They love somebody who loves what they do, who really is passionate about the work. They know that person is going to run through a wall to get the job done, because it's not about just the job, it's about something they love to do. So we start off that last one with that statement, I'm passionate about. Then you're focused on a summary statement of your overall value in this target job. Now, understand that even though you're using the term I am passionate about, we're not really looking for your passion. Like, for example, I'm a cyclist. I love to ride bikes in Boulder. I don't say I'm a cyclist because that's not germane to the conversation. You're really focused in being passionate about what they're passionate about. And the summary is that's where you state what their biggest need is, your summary of your overall value. And then at the end, we're going to all use this phrase today, which drives bottom line business results, because it's telling them it's not just about your specific role, it's about helping the company. And for profit-based companies, we're going to talk about bottom line. We're going to talk about financial results. And by the way, if it's a company that's a nonprofit or more altruistic, we can say that drives organizational objectives. Same thing without the dollar sign, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about driving results for them. Understand that middle known for sentence is tactical. What you do, how you do it, and the passion statement is strategic. That's really a higher level and higher echelon of value because it's an overview, kind of a 50,000-foot view of a summary of your value. So that's what we're going to create together. So to do that, I want to show you what it looks like. I want to let you hear what it looks like. So I've got a couple examples for you. Let me read these, absorb this, and this is what you're going to be creating. So if you are a project manager, for example, you might sound like, I'm a John Smith, a high-performing PMP certified project manager and certified Scrum Master. I'm known for aligning with business stakeholders, increasing market competitiveness, and exceeding schedule and budget expectations. And I'm passionate about managing the complex web of interrelated projects within an organization, which drives bottom line business results. So that'd be a PM. Another example, what if you're a sales professional? Different focus. I'm Jane Smith, a top sales producer and business development professional. And I'm known for closing new business sales, increasing market share, and exceeding sales and revenue goals. And I'm passionate about utilizing advanced consultative sales techniques to sell innovative solutions that provide highly profitable sales. So I bet if you were a hiring manager and you were looking for one of these types of professionals, you heard that, you'd at least want to say, well, I want to hear more. Hopefully you'd say, oh, Dan, tell me more about that consultative sales approach. What does that mean to you? How would it benefit me? So those are examples of what we're going to create today. So again, the structure. And I want you now to start thinking about your example, because very soon we're going to get you into you creating your branding statement. And we're going to do this one line at a time, one sentence at a time. So again, the overview. The first sentence is about your target title and a couple of adjectives. The second sentence is about the top 3 skills that they want in that role. And the third sentence is about your overall professional value, that one big thing that they're really looking for. All right. So now we're going to have you create your first sentence of the branding statement. So what I want you to do, everybody, is create that first sentence. So here's a specific structure. That middle bullet, you're going to have your name, an adjective. Here's the adjective that I want to suggest you use today. Everybody use the adjective today, successful. Adjectives are powerful because they add weight to, they add value to, they're descriptive, and they're valuable. So today you're going to use successful. Then insert your target title. Then we're going to insert the phrase with deep expertise in, and then whatever that expertise is related to that role. Hi, I'm Dan Wegner, a successful career coach with deep expertise helping people get jobs they love and get compensated highly. Very simple, very clear. Okay, let me pause there. Now, I want to see if anyone has a question on how to execute and how to create this first sentence of the branding statement. So I can't see everybody in the screen. So if you have a question, just say your name and then let me know what that question is, please.
Dan, I just have a process question. You're going to distribute or allow us to distribute these slides after the fact?
Absolutely. I will send them to Dawn and then
Okay,
you
beautiful.
guys will have those. Thank you for asking, Trent.
Yep.
Excellent. Any other questions before I give you a minute to create that? Okay, good. Everybody take a minute. Oh, yes, please.
This is Jamie. And would you suggest having a different branding statement for kind of each role or job you're looking into, or to try and make it a little bit more generic so it stays fairly consistent?
Jamie, you set me up in a great way. The $20 is under your chair. Just kidding.
Oh,
So comes back to that thing I said early. Always customize. I'm going to go further. Everything is always customized. So the answer to Jamie's question is yes, customize. No, never be generic. So what you're going to do, it's actually a really good, insightful question. You're going to create today a base branding statement. It creates the structure, how to do it, and it's very targeted on one thing. If you have a different role you're going for, you'll change it a lot. If it's just a different company with the same role, you'll nuance it, you'll customize it using their language, their focus, like the top 3 skills. Every company might have a different variation of that. So great question. And the answer is always customize.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Because I've
Yes.
had this kind of hung up on this for something like LinkedIn, where you're just out there.
Yes.
What do you do? Because you can't customize because you're out there.
Awesome question. LinkedIn is a nuance on this theme. So LinkedIn needs to be customized to your target audience, which is probably going to be a little bit wider per your comment, but you still have to be focused. There's different ways to do that. I'll just give you my LinkedIn. You can check it out later. My LinkedIn profile is an example of that. There's an overall theme. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, but I have different areas of expertise. So even in my about section, I have sectioned that off under the theme of coach and mentor. I have executive, I have career coach, I have executive coach, I have life coach. So it's a way to say there's a commonality here. I'm all these things, but then here's some specifics about those different parts of me that you might want. Great question. Thank you for asking that. Other questions about how to create this first sentence? Okay, let's do this. Let's take a second. Go ahead, take 1 minute and create your first sentence, your first definition of who you are in this branding statement. Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. Who'd like to volunteer
I can go.
to give us your first sentence? And understand that no one's going to have this perfected. We all know we're just starting this, but I'd love to be able to give some feedback. So who'd like to step up and share
I can
that
do it,
first?
Dan.
Great.
Steven.
And if you would, guys, because I can't see everybody, just say your name when you speak.
Steven.
Stephen, thank you, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna have to read it, so sorry about the.
Yeah, please. No. Again, the memorization comes much later. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I am Steven Stump, a proven leader of marketing teams with deep expertise in maximizing team output in an efficient and effective manner.
Great start, Stephen. Thank you for stepping up. So let me give some context to my coaching. I never criticize. I'm all about helping people optimize. So I'm going to give feedback. And when I'm coaching one person, I'm really coaching everyone. So what we'll do is we'll kind of pick this apart a little bit in a good way to say, how can we improve pieces? So one of the methodologies that I use to coach is I'm going to have you say it again. Then when I find something that I can enhance, I'm going to say pause. Just stop there, and then I'll give some feedback. So Stephen, if you would start reading it again, then I'll pause you when we're going to help.
Okay. I am Steven Stump. I am a proven leader of marketing teams with deep expertise in maximizing team output.
Okay, pause. So part of what you are, I'm hearing already, is a great marketer and a great leader. That's a powerful combination. I love that. And if you indeed want to be a leader, I love that we're emphasizing that. Now, here's the other side that we can use space that's even more effective. One thing we don't want to do, because we have very limited space in this overall branding statement, we only have spot for like 6 points of value. So we don't want to ever be repetitive. So we talked about leader and leading teams, and then you mentioned teams again. So we're just going to remove that second teams because we don't need to emphasize it again yet.
Okay.
But I love that. So just take out the teams part and start from with deep expertise, and let's see what we have.
With deep expertise in maximizing output in an efficient and effective manner.
Okay. So we might ask the question, maybe is output the best word there? And when you're thinking about marketing, like for you, what does output mean?
Actually, a better word, since you made me think about it more, it would be solutions.
I love that. That's a great word. Solutions. Okay. And then you have an adjective there. I think you said effective or efficient.
Efficient and effective.
Okay. So those are good words. I like to go for great. I like to go for superlatives. So at a minimum, you could have put a modifier in highly effective.
Okay.
Or you could say that maximizes profitability. We could just go right to that. Here's the bottom line value. So those are some suggestions and some examples of how you, when you guys are thinking about that sentence, and we're going to use this throughout today, and when you're thinking about your value, how can we start to amp it up? How can we maximize value? All right, Stephen, great job, buddy. Thanks for stepping up. We're off to a great start. Okay, let's move to that second sentence now. This is the known for sentence. By the way, I didn't mention this earlier. Why do I intentionally start off the sentence with the phrase, I am known for? Because it has the connotation of your reputation being very valuable. It's like, without saying it, you said, hey, if you, pardon me. If you talk to 10 of my friends, my coworkers, they'd all say I'm great at X, Y, or Z. So we're not actually doing that, but it carries that connotation. So it talks about positive reputation. So then, most importantly, the core of this sentence is the top 3 skills that a hiring manager is going to want from you in the target title that we just talked about in that first sentence. So here's what it sounds like. I am known for 1, 2, and 3. So you're thinking about the skill, pair it with an adjective. We just talked about how powerful that is. And that's it. This sentence is very specific about top skills related to your target role. Let me pause and see what questions you have about this second sentence. Okay, let's do it. Take a minute and create your second sentence in the branding statement. Great. Okay, who would like to volunteer for the second sentence? Got a great crowd today. 23 of us on the Zoom today.
I can go. It's Sandra
Sandra,
here.
is that Sandra?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Sandra. Go ahead.
So I'm known for supporting clients, achieving their business goals, bringing value to my organization, and maximizing the management of strategic programs.
Wow, great job. Lot of really good value there. So really good start. Now, the way I heard that, I heard 4 items. Let's talk about why we're talking about 3. In general, in communication, whether verbal or written, there is actually an optimum number of items you're going to have in any list. The number is either 3 or 1. If you go beyond 3, people don't have the capacity often to recall, to remember. So we never go beyond 3 in any one list. And the other instance, if it's just one top thing, we're going to use the top 1. So our last sentence that we'll get to is going to be the top 1, but this is the top 3. So if you look at that, you would think, Sandra, okay, which are the top 3 of those, right? Now, let me ask you, the last one that you mentioned, repeat the last one that you mentioned. Remind me what that is.
The manager, and just to give you a brief context, I'm looking for positions in the customer success management role. So that's why I'm putting the focus on clients and my organization. The last sentence was maximizing the management of strategic programs.
Okay. And the reason I asked that is because if you, and anyone, of course, I'm talking to, if you're going to be a leader in some way, we would definitely want to call that out. And the leadership always should go in that first slot of the 3. So for instance, if you're a leader, that first phrase, and you guys can copy this down, I'm known for building and leading high performance teams. That's kind of a good summary statement about you lead. You build it, you lead it. And it's the whole thing. It could be hiring, vetting, training, execution, the whole thing. Now, managing programs, Sandra, are you an actual people leader or you're a program leader or both?
Program leader.
Okay,
Program.
I'd still probably put it in that first slide because it kind of got that initiative there.
So you're saying like put this on the first sentence, right?
I'm sorry, I'm confusing you, my fault. I'm saying put it in the first slot in this second sentence. I'm known for managing programs, whatever that was.
Ah, okay, okay.
Thank you. Now,
Thank
if you look at the other 3 items, what do you think of this second most important item?
Supporting the clients achieving their business goals.
Okay, good. Now, it's actually a good point for me to make some perspective here. Understand your target audience in this statement. Our target audience is the hiring manager. It's not our clients yet. So we always want to say we're going to be giving value to the hiring manager, to the company. Sometimes it's supporting clients, but ultimately we have to make sure it's doing that. So it could be something like, and growing the business through the ultimate client support or some optimum client support. So see that little bit of subtle change?
Yes.
It's still giving value to the company by doing X.
I got it.
Nice, very good. And then
Thank you.
afterwards, you'll think about what's that third best and take one out there. So let me just ask, now that you guys have heard this, anybody else have any questions specifically about the second sentence in your version?
Dan, this might be jumping ahead, but
Okay.
how do you differentiate the top 3 skills versus the next thing we're going to do, which is kind of the home run, so to speak?
Great question, Stephen. Because one's more granular and one's more overview. That's the way to think about it. This sentence is very granular. Skill 1, skill 2, skill 3. The next sentence that we're about to do, this is the summary of my overall value. That's the way to kind of delineate those two. But I love the way you're thinking, buddy. Thank you for that question. Good. Any other questions on the second known for sentence? Awesome. All right. Let's move to the third and the last sentence in the branding statement, which is the passion statement. So as we just said, thanks for the lead in, Stephen. This is really the summary. You're thinking about really the one big thing that encompasses your overall value. So I want everybody to get the structure down. So I'm gonna dictate something to you. I want you to write right now, the first part of the sentence, say, I am passionate about. Go ahead and write that out. Skip a line. We're going to fill that in later. The last line, I don't want to use those interchangeably. The last part of this line is, and then write this down. which drives bottom line results. So we've already created 2/3 of this one sentence. This is going to be easy, right? Okay, now what you're thinking about is that summary, overview over total value that you're going to deliver in this role. That's what you're going to fill in the middle of that. Again, let me pause, see if any questions are coming up regarding this third last, the passion statement. Good. Okay, go ahead and do that. Execute, create that last sentence for your branding statement. Okay, great. All right, who would like to volunteer? Maybe somebody that hasn't had a chance to share yet.
Go quickly.
Colin, thank you.
Sure. I'm passionate about accelerating systemic change to address climate change, which drives triple bottom line results.
Wow. So there's some powerful language in that. Colin, my early career was in marketing. You're thinking and communicating like a marketer there. I love it. Some very powerful language. All right, let's hear it again. If something comes up, I'll pause you, but we're in a really good position there. Go ahead, one more time.
Well, I want everyone's free feedback, so don't hold back.
Excellent.
Passionate about accelerating systemic change.
Pause. Let me give you just some affirmation. I just want to call out the language there. Accelerating. What a powerful word. You hear that and you think about speed. You think about forward movement. You think about progress. Accelerating is a powerful adjective. Systemic change. Okay. So then we could say, is systemic good, bad, or indifferent? There's no right or wrongs here. It's just we're looking for the best. So the good part of that is we're thinking of system-wide. So that's a good thing, right? Sometimes someone might have a negative connotation about systemic because that's often connotated or connected with problems or issues, systemic issues. So, take it or leave it. And especially, guys, and hear this, everyone, if there's language that's used in your industry, use it. So all good. Okay, keep going. Systemic change.
To address climate change. I know
Okay.
that's two changes in a row, so there should be one less change.
Okay.
But
How
to
about
address
improvement? Climate improvement. Or systemic improvements in climate change.
I love it.
Good. Good.
Accelerating systemic improvements to address climate change, which drives triple bottom line results.
Okay. Now, you made the conversion nicely. Triple bottom line, I'm sure everybody understands. It really is talking more about an organization that moves towards more altruistic, sometimes nonprofit, just a bigger, it's not just about dollars, it's about the people, it's about the environment, it's about the world. And in connection with the climate change, perfect phrasing there. So now let's give everybody context. Colin, what is the title? What's the role that you're targeting?
A business executive.
Business executive.
A business development manager.
Okay, biz dev, sales for those that don't know. So a business development executive in what industry?
Clean energy, it could be climate tech, it could be.
Okay, you've answered this question that I wanted. I wanted to make sure that this is focused in the right way, because some people are just passionate about, I'm going to use a weird example, passionate about dogs, but they're going for a finance position. In the passion statement, they'll say, I'm passionate about golden retrievers. Wrong place. Your focus on climate and driving systemic change is good. However, here's some feedback, Colin.
Please.
What I did not hear in your passion statement, within the context of changing the world for the better, is that your part of that is selling stuff. I heard nothing about selling stuff. So in the pointed purpose of this statement for getting the job, it actually needs improvement in a good way. So we would add in there, I am passionate about bringing products to market and driving profitable sales for organizations that change the world with good climate and da, 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 da. We have to add that in there to make sure they know your part in doing that.
I like that.
Wow, what a great example. Thank you for stepping up, my friend, because it really helped illustrate that point that you have to stay on point. What's my role in part of the bigger picture?
Thank you for
Remember,
the
they're not
feedback.
hiring. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. They're not hiring your whole team. They're hiring you. They're not changing the world. They're hiring you to maybe change the world or maybe do their accounting, whatever it is. All right, great job. Any other last questions on branding statement? We're going to move to the next concept.
Mahet had a question about how do you customize the first and second sentences for a person that doesn't really have prior experience?
Thank you for asking. And this is a bit of a mental hurdle for some people. So Trent, great question. Remember, if you don't have confidence that you're going to do the job, there is no way that a hiring manager will have confidence that you're going to be able to do it. And of course, then hire you. So you need to talk about what you are, what you have, how you do things that say you're going to be great at that role. So we have to think in future tense, but it's about taking transferable skills. For some reason, everybody here, even if they're going for something that's totally different, wants that new goal. And I bet part of it is because you have a skill sets. You have done things that are part of, germane to that future target. So you're talking about the skills that are part of your set that say you're going to be a great CEO. Hardly anyone, unless they create their own company, starts out as the CEO, but they target that CEO and then say why they're going to be a great CEO. So that's the way we talk about it, even if you're transitioning to something that's not something you've done specifically before. And again, to create confidence for you guys, you have done parts of it, you have supported people that have done it, and you'll be great at, but you have to show that confidence.
Great.
Great question. Okay, great. We're doing awesome. So let's transition to that next concept. Second, last concept for today. This is a big one.
Hey,
This is
Dan,
about
can I
your
ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Can I ask one more question before you move
Yes,
on?
Jane.
Thank you. When you're writing this, or when I'm writing it, if I'm looking at a project or I'm looking at a position where I would implement technology for other companies, do I write it more focused on what I can do for the other companies or the company that might employ me? Yes, is it more of an external focus or an internal focus?
Great question. And it comes back to what I was talking about earlier. So I'm glad you asked it again so we can cement it for everybody. You're speaking to the target audience. The target audience of this statement is the person that's going to hire you. It's not your ultimate client. So then how do we do that? Within the context of making your company money, you will serve clients. So you would talk about, I am known for providing the highest customer service levels, which creates long-term profitable customers. For example, see how I tied that together? Providing customer service, but here's what it's going to give you, Mr. Hiring Manager, because that's our target one. Awesome. Great question. Great question. Okay, success stories. We call them SOARs, and I'll tell you what SOAR means in a minute. But first of all, let's talk about the context. What is this? What's its purpose? So these are your accomplishments. Why do we use story, by the way? Because one of the reasons is people remember stories. If you just throw a lot of data points at somebody, they don't recall it very well. But people connect to story. They connect to the person that's telling it. That's you. And then most importantly, in the context of an interview, it's the way that companies interview today. They use a style called behavioral-based interviewing. It's when they ask those open-ended questions like, tell me about a time when. This is the answer to that type of question. It's a success you've had sharing the skills that you used to create a positive result. Why do they ask these kind of questions? Because they know the best predictor of what you might do for them in the future is what you've done in the past. So these are things that you've done successfully for other companies and you connected to what they want in the future. That's what this is. It's about the skills they want. We're going to use a concept in this where you're describing how well you did, and we're going to measure it. And we're even going to tell them how bad it was before you. So we're going to use a concept called metrics. Metrics are just measurements. And the three types of metrics we use in a source story are either dollars, percentages, or time. And you can describe those metrics at any level that's appropriate, that you understand. Because this is a hurdle for some people. So we're going to get past that hurdle very quickly. A lot of people say, Dan, I don't know the numbers. I don't deal with the numbers. Great, you don't have to. Because you can always just describe it with an adjective. But if you have a sense of how much, you can estimate. And best, if you know exactly, you can give them an exact number. So let me give you an example of a metric, a dollar metric in those descending levels of exact, estimate, or elude. Or let's use a salesperson. Last year, I sold $1.4 million of product generating revenue. 1.4 specific, I know it, you're going to hear it directly. What if I know an approximate number, but I don't know the exact number? Then we're going to use the modifier about. Last year I sold, no, I'm sorry, scratch that, that's wrong. We're going to use over because we always want to be superlative. So we're going to use over. Last year I sold over $1 million worth of product. So you're saying that's the ballpark, don't know the exact, but they have a sense of, and it's a good number. That's estimating. What if you have no clue what the number is? And some of you are going to have no clue, so then you just use an adjective. Last year, I sold a significant amount of profitable product in the marketplace. You're just using an adjective. So don't let that hold you up, but get to measurement as best you can. Okay, let's talk about the structure. Overall, the source story is made up of these four components. And here's where the acronym comes from. SOAR, summary, obstacle, action, result. Summary, obstacle, action, result. We're going to go through each one of those in detail. What I want you to do right now, before we even get into this, I want you to pick a story that you're going to tell. Just some success you've had in your career. It doesn't have to be the best thing. Just something that comes to mind, because this is just one of 100 you're going to create. We're going to start with one today. Today is about building the structure so you know how to do this. So something that has good results. And as we go through this, you're going to use that one story to build as we go through. So let's talk about the summary. What is the summary? It's really just a brief beginning. It's an overview to get them interested. It's got three main points of data that you're going to include in this first summary section. In this sense, it's just a sentence. Your title that you had during this story, the company at which you were working during the story, and then a brief overview of your success in the story that you're about to tell them. The formula is what we have at the bottom. Why don't everybody write that down? Include the blanks there. When I was the blank at blank, I created a winning strategy for blank, which greatly increased positive results. The one word in there that I have is a set piece and not an underline is strategy. You might not be creating your strategy, maybe a methodology, maybe you just you created a process. So that one's a variable too, but that's the structure you're going to use. And what are we going to plug in those three slots? Very simply, when I was the title, your title, at the name of the company, I created a winning Methodology for what? That's where you're going to put in that overview of the value that you created. So that's a very simple structure for this beginning of your source story. Here's what it sounds like. When I was the product manager at Acme Software, I created a winning strategy for product licensing that significantly increased revenue. So here's the structure. Now you know the process. Now you're going to start creating this. You're going to create your summary section with those 3 data points: the company, the title, and your brief success. So again, let me pause and see what questions are coming up regarding the summary. All right, great. Let's take a minute. Go ahead and create your first part of this, which is the summary sentence. Okay, great. This one's pretty straightforward. Why don't we have somebody maybe that hasn't had a chance to share yet, just to give us your example so we can optimize it for you. Who'd like to share?
I would.
Roger, thank you.
But it's kind of long and I'm not complete. I was still writing it. So
That's great. We'll do it together, buddy. Give us a
Okay.
shot.
So at a company called Verifone, I introduced and championed a change in mechanical engineering development methodology by building a CAE CAD CAM capability for the, excuse me,
That's right.
someone's trying to call me.
It's a hiring manager.
Okay, so no, it's probably spam. Anyway.
Okay, start again because we got.
I'll start over then.
Go ahead and start.
I introduced and championed a change in mechanical engineering development methodology by building a CAE CAD CAM capability for the company that significantly improved design quality through the use of both solid modeling methodology and through using computer-aided manufacturing to build injection mold tools at a fraction of the cost. And I didn't include CAE, which also facilitated the ability to improve the process and dramatically improve return on investment.
Love it. So here's the great thing. You're starting off, if we're on a scale, not enough, too much, you're starting off on the right side. You've got so much there. We're going to use all of that. So Roger, I want you to hear, great job. We're going to use all of it, but in different places, we're going to parse that out a bit, right? So, and you kind of knew that going in. So I'm glad you just shared that because it's helpful for everybody. This is just a tease. Think of it as just a tease, an overview. All that detail is so important. We're going to use it down below. So we're going to pull out just a few pieces to have this first introduction sentence, but keep all of it, hear me. And let's go back to the structure. So I like to start off with the title because it starts to give them who you are, because you start off with company. So when I was the what was your title?
Mechanical engineering manager, or should I say director?
Thank you. Good question. Thank you, Roger. That's a good question. So understand 2 things regarding his question. He's like, which title, what level should I use here? Let me give everybody some coaching here. We want to shade it towards the title that you want. And I'm also going to give everybody some freedom. You don't have to use the exact name of the title that the company gave you, because often it doesn't mean anything outside the company or it's just too narrow. So one way to do this is to use a more general term that still carries the weight. So leader would be an example of that more general term that puts you up in that echelon, could fit anywhere. If you're going for a director role and the role you had fits that, I would use director.
Okay.
So when I was the engineering management leader, okay? And then what was the name of the company?
Verifone.
At Verifone, comma. That's the first part of your sentence, locked in, very simple. Okay, now we're going to get strategic here. From that next paragraph that you had, I want you to pull out the one most important thing. Again, this is thinking kind of summary level. What's a summary? How can you summarize all that value?
I could focus on one of them.
Good,
Computer-aided manufacturing was a huge improvement.
awesome. So, and then that's the thing. So what did you do? Did you improve, create, refine, execute? What'd you do?
Improved the injection mold tooling process.
Okay.
For-
Injection molding is probably
for-
more specific. We're going to use that down below. We're going to leave that out for now. So let's stick with the CAM, right? And improved, how can we make that superlative? Instead of just improving, optimized. We optimize the efficiency of the computer-aided manufacturing system. That might be an example. So when I was the engineering management leader at Verifone, I optimized the computer-aided manufacturing engineering process. And then we're going to add something about $ at the end, which maximized profitability or which increased bottom line results for the company. Something very specific. Very concise about value, but not using a specific metric. So great job, Roger. Again, keep all that other detail you're going to see in a minute. You're going to use it, but that's the way we do that opening sentence. It's just summary. We're just teasing them. They want to hear more. Anybody else have a specific question about their summary?
I have a question about, and this has kind of come up throughout. In my case, I was an outside lawyer. And so my title as an outside lawyer isn't that important, but I helped really large deals. So it's the same thing. It's like I worked with clients, doing like multi-billion-dollar deals, but my title wasn't that
Excellent.
important.
And forgive me, is your name pronounced Carol?
Yes.
Carol, what is the role you're targeting now?
I would like to be in-house, still as a lawyer, but in-house helping
So
large
I
deals
would
for the
use
company.
I would use the term attorney at this point for the
Okay.
initial title.
Okay.
Yeah. See how, we're all, again, no right or wrong, just best. We're saying, what is that best term that focuses me enough, but doesn't pigeonhole me? The opposite of being too focused is being so focused that you don't fit. So that's how I might do that. But
Okay.
if you've had that in-house counsel, you could include that. If you haven't, I would go with attorney, for example. Thank you. Boy, great example of how to nuance that. All right, great job. You guys are doing awesome. Okay, second part of the SOAR is the obstacle. What is the obstacle? This is where you help them understand that you overcame something significant. This is what's different about my process called SOAR, different from the process that you probably have all heard of, which is STAR. The difference is this component. In STAR, the T stands for task. For me, that's mediocre. It's just what you were told to do. What I do is create value by saying you overcame something significant. So the obstacle is talking about the business challenge that the company had. It is not about you. This is really important. You cannot be the source of the problem. You cannot contribute to the problem, because if you do, the whole story is meaningless. You're just fixing your own problem. So it has to be a company has an issue. We're not talking bad about them. Every company has challenges. That's just part of the thing. So you're going to use the phrase, write this down. The first part of this section is literally, the company had a big problem. That's the way everyone is going to start their obstacle section. It puts it in context. Okay, hiring manager goes, okay, company had a problem. Now, to separate yourself from the issue, you're going to use the right pronouns. So you're going to talk about others. You're going to say the company or they or them. Never going to use yourself. I, me, my is never part of the obstacle. This is the only place where you're not focused on yourself. Now, here's the first place where we're going to use those metrics that I described in detail earlier. Because what we're going to say, since it's not your problem, is you're going to define how bad the problem was using those metrics that we discussed earlier. So let me first say, in an obstacle, when you actually do your source stories, we're going to go back to the rule of 3. You're going to choose the top 3 obstacles. That's your goal, to have 3 obstacles in your story. Got it, locked in. Now, for today, for the sake of time, on honor your time, we're only going to use 1. So for this example, we're just going to use 1 obstacle today. Second, then you're going to talk about what the problem was. You're going to give some nuance, some understanding of why it mattered. Now, this brings up the question in everyone, well, how much detail, Dan? The answer is just enough to let them understand how it relates to them, why it matters, and how it relates to the job you're targeting. So again, customization. So just a little bit of detail so they know what the heck you're talking about, but you're starting to talk about here's why it was such a problem. And then third and last, you're just going to assign the metric to it, how bad it was. So it could either be past tense or future tense, meaning it could be a problem that already existed, meaning this is the negative number that was occurring, or it could be preventative, meaning if this problem wasn't solved, it would have caused this much issue, metric. So it could be something that would have occurred if you didn't fix it, or has already occurred and you're going to fix it. So that's the core of this obstacles section. So here's an example. The company had a big problem with missed revenue from end user licenses. In fact, there was very lax enforcement of these license agreements, and this was causing a loss of potential revenue from their software tools. In fact, the company was estimating a loss of over $600,000 annually due to this problem. The company had the problem. Here's why it mattered. Here's what was going on, and here's how much it mattered. When you think about it in this way, this is actually easy. All right, so you know the drill. Now we're going to have you do your obstacle section. Today, again, only focus on 1 obstacle. So there's some nuance here. So let me pause again and see what questions are coming up from you guys regarding how to create your obstacle.
I have a question about this. What if it was a specific incident that you solved?
Tell me more. Why would that be? Why is that a question for you? With everything specific in a sense. So why is that coming up for you, Roger?
I was on the hook to fix a problem that would have cost the company $40 million if I hadn't fixed it immediately.
So I say, kudos, you're a really valuable guy. So that's absolutely good. So again, you asked me the question, are you saying, let me try to interpret. Are you saying, Dan, it's a screw that only existed once in history and I fixed that screw, so does it apply to everybody else? Is that the nuance of your question?
Well, it was more specific than that and immediate. It was an incident
Okay,
that
but
occurred.
don't tell me
that I
the
had to
detail
fix.
because I don't want to get into the weeds, but I was just trying to understand why you were questioning. So let me just answer kind of in a
Okay.
more general sense.
Well,
Thank
you're
you.
talking about generalities. This was a very specific thing that happened.
Okay, I thank you, and thanks for pushing back. I love that. So if I've been saying make everything general, I've been saying the wrong message. What I've been trying to say is customize, customize. Be specific. So your specific example of your source story, which is something you've done in the past, because it becomes an example of how you're going to do something for them in the future. So here's the nuance, and Roger, this is a great question. If the company that you're trying to get hired at in this specific role, I'll stick with my example, uses that same screw, then I would talk about that screw. If they don't use that screw, don't mention that screw, say, I fixed a process. So that's how you get a little bit more granular or a little bit more specific based on how does it relate to your target.
Okay.
So brilliant question. I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
Other questions about how to execute your obstacle?
Dan, can I ask just really quickly? It's Amy.
Yes.
To the question you're bringing up, Roger, I think it's on the previous slide, perhaps, where you said, at this point, don't use you individually, say the company had a problem, the company had, is that what you were stuck on, Roger? Because you were the solution to the company having the problem. So I think that's why you're having a hard time pulling this going to
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah, since it was
Wow.
a single incident that I had to
Okay.
fix.
Okay,
That was,
So
Yeah.
Amy, you've earned your pay for today because you helped me understand the question. Thank you. This is a really important point. So I'm glad both you, Roger and Amy, brought this up. So let's say the company didn't even know they had a problem. You're the one who identified it. Then how do you do the SOAR? How do you do the obstacle? A very specific way, and it's important. What you say is the company didn't even know they had a problem, but the problem was. So hear me, everybody write that down because that's a specific phrase in this instance. The company didn't even know they had a problem, comma, but the problem was ... ellipse. That's how you set the stage for something that you found, but you keep yourself out of it. And when we get to the next section, which is the action, which is about you and your skills, the first thing you're going to say is, one of my skills is finding things that I can optimize. That's how we tie this together. So brilliant. Amy and Roger, I'm glad you guys brought that up. Okay, let's do it. So everybody take a minute, create your obstacle section, just focusing on one problem for today. Go. Okay, beautiful. I understand this one is more in depth. It's more challenging. So no one's going to have this refined and finished. So what I'm looking for is someone just who has it started that I can help, so we can help everybody do an example. So who could step up for us and give us an example of your obstacle?
Well, go ahead and step up, Dan.
And thank you. And what's your name? Douglas.
Douglas.
There you go. Thank you. Go ahead, Douglas. Appreciate you stepping up.
The obstacle following an 18-month program, building an outsourced customer support program, the expected operating cost savings were falling short of expectation.
Okay, great start. Thank you, Douglas. So now we have something we can start working with. Great start. I love the idea. You're in the right ballpark. Now let's refine it so we can make it really powerful. So I want you to write these words down. Everybody, if you do not have these words to begin this section, write it down now. The company had a big problem. It's so important because the way you said it, I wasn't quite sure, Douglas, if you might have been the source of the problem. Do not leave that in doubt. So just write that first part of the sentence. Okay, so add that at the beginning and then start telling it again. And again, I'll just pause you when I can refine something to help us. So start off with that part and then do it again.
The company had a problem. Following
How about a
18
big
months.
problem? Was it, let me ask you, hey, was it a little problem that didn't matter, Douglas?
No, it was a big problem.
Let's just go ahead and tell the hiring manager that.
The company had a big problem. Following 18 months, building an outsourced customer support program, the expected operation cost savings were falling short of expectation.
Pause. Great job. Great job. Okay. Now, there's some nuance here. You guys are sharp people, so I'm going to lay this out here and we'll all get it. When you're talking about yourself, we're always going to use positive language. So when you're talking about yourself, you're going to use the positive side of the coin. Everything has a positive and a negative way you could potentially describe it. So the positive side about something in general could say, I am optimizing a solution. The negative way to describe that is fixing a problem. Same thing, but in positive and negative language. In the obstacle, this is the only place Dan, I'm going to give you permission to be negative. Why? Because this is not about you. So the whole point I was making is when you said they were not achieving, my words, not achieving the profitability they wanted. That's a positive thing. So we're just going to take it and turn it upside down. So give me that one part of the sentence, and then we'll substitute a word for you.
Okay, second part would be following 18 months, building an outsourced customer support program. Operational cost savings were falling
Pause.
short of expectation.
Pause. Savings is a powerful thing that in the end you are going to deliver. Right now, this is not the place for it. So right now we're going to say something like, in the first 18 months of this program, they were underachieving. They were in negative cost overruns. Something like that that says, oh, this is bad. I feel the pain. That's our goal here. And by the way, guys, you can tell I'm really practiced at this. You will get there too. By doing these over and over, creating a lot of these, you're going to become an expert at these. That's why we're giving you the structure. Okay, so now we've changed it to that negative expression. So keep going. What else do we have in there?
That was pretty much it.
Okay,
Trying
good.
to keep it,
So that's a
trying
great
to keep it
example.
succinct.
I love that about you, my friend. That's the one thing. Now, again, just to reiterate, in an actual source story in an interview, you're going to have 3 of those. But today we're just doing 1. Great job. Okay. You guys are doing awesome. We're going to keep rolling. So now we're going to get to the action. I want to say
Dan,
up
sorry,
front,
can I ask one more question?
Jamie, please don't
yeah, thank
apologize.
you.
I love that.
Okay, so one of the things that I've talked about before under an accomplishment is a mentoring program that I implemented.
Yes.
But it wasn't necessarily like there was a big problem that we were trying to solve. Do I like make stuff up to make it sound like it was a bigger problem? Like, you know,
Yeah. Let me give you some feedback.
they weren't developing leaders, but it wasn't like it was impacting the bottom line like significantly. Like it was more of, and maybe this is my own limiting belief, but it was more like a nice to have program. And if I didn't do it, it just wouldn't be there. It's not like the company would have failed miserably.
I hear it. And Jamie, thank you for sharing. Now, I'm going to push back at you, not at you directly, but just in this thought process. And I'm going to go a little hard at it because I really want to make this point. And I'm going to start off with something that's really dramatic. Who cares then? That's the question you guys need to ask yourself. Why does this matter? Who cares? I will challenge you that everything always matters. You just need to refine how you express it to get there. So Jamie, I want to use your example. So come back online with me, unmute yourself, and let's go through this together. I'm going to, my slide advanced, I'm going to get back. Okay. So again, to be clear, we're back in the obstacle. And Jamie's saying, it was okay, nice to have, didn't really need it. Let's push back on that a little bit. Let's just ferret this out. You taught the subject, the thing ultimately you're going to deliver is a mentoring program. So Jamie, you tell me, why did it matter to the company? It's always to the company's perspective. Why did it matter?
It was an opportunity to create engagement, retention, and develop employees.
Oh my gosh, those are hot buttons today. In this world of the Great Resignation, engagement, retention, those are massive. So you just got to the answer yourself very quickly. So now, since we're in the obstacle and we're describing the problem first before all the good things that we just identified you're going to get to, now how do we express it in the obstacle? Here's how, something like this. The company had a big problem. The employee base was disengaged. They were not connected to the work, it didn't matter, and therefore their productivity was plummeting. In fact, every year they were losing $20 zillion of productivity, which cost them $1 billion, and the company collapsed immediately. I went to the end really quickly to make my point, but that's the way you guys need to start thinking.
Okay.
So absolutely it mattered. Jamie, you displayed some good EQ, self-awareness. You said, maybe it's just me limiting. Yeah, everybody has some of that, but so good to bring it out. And thanks for trusting us with that. So we're going to free you up. We're going to say, you're awesome. We just have to get to the way of how do I describe my value?
Well, and like, I always talk about it as an accomplishment, and those were the good things that we did, but I don't know that like I could have created it as like, it was this major obstacle for the company. So I think I
Okay.
need to like reframe it, and you kind of fluffed it up a bit, and I appreciate that because
Okay. Let's get granular. I went extreme to make my point. Thanks for playing with me. Let's get granular for you because this is important because everybody deals with this. So for you, why did this matter to that company? What was a positive benefit? What was the positive benefit that came out of it?
right.
This
Well,
benefit.
I mean, the positive, I understand the positive benefits, the engagement, retention, and
No, let's stick with one at a time. Retention. Why does retention matter? So what? Tell me why that matters.
it's expensive to hire people. We want to keep them
Yes.
going.
Boom. I want to stop you right there. Everybody here, she just got to a dollar sign. She said, retention is expensive. Yes, why? Because if they leave, it's expensive to place ads, to find people, to hire people, to train people, to make sure they stick. A lot of money is associated with that. So boom, we got there. Now the next challenge that everybody has is, yeah, Dan, but I'm not in accounting. I don't know how much. Guess what? Dan gave you permission and grace by saying you could be exact, you could estimate, or you can elude. So Jamie, in this situation regarding retention, do you have any sense of how much it actually cost them? She said no. So the answer becomes, and ultimately, when we get to the end, we're jumping to the end, but this is good. And ultimately, it was incredibly expensive for the company. And it was costing them incredible amounts of their profit margins. And it was degrading their business overall. I didn't use any numbers, but the hiring manager goes, I get it. This is going to cost me money if it doesn't solve.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Good.
you. Thank you for providing that.
Great
clarity
job.
for me.
Boy, what a great example. Okay, I love that. We went backwards, so let's catch up. We're in action. So here's the, this is the top 3 skills that you used in this story. What does top mean? It's the most important skills that they want. In any one story, we're going to be focused on top 3, right? Today, of course, we're going to do top 1. We're going to talk about you. So you're going to use a phrase, either you did it or you led a team that did it. We'll talk about your value. So we're talking about top skills. So here's what the structure looks like. So first, you're going to think about your top skills. Today, just choose one. So right now, pick a skill that's part of your story. Second thing you're going to do, you're going to tell them how you used it in the context of why it's going to be valuable for them. So we're going to pick one skill and tell how you use that skill. So here's a couple of examples. I implemented a successful new license enforcement methodology that identified and charged the abusers of the software tools and converted them to paying customers. I worked with senior management and created a product strategy where I bundled the necessary products together in ready-made solutions and then marketed them for each of the target segments. So let's emphasize the important points here. It's a skill and it's a verb. It's a skill and what you did with it. The first paragraph is about enforcement methodology. That's the skill. What did you do? You implemented. What's the second part? What's the skill? Product strategy. What did you do? You created. So again, don't overthink these things, guys. When you break it down, it's actually very clear, very concise. So in the action that you're thinking about what's the skill, name it, and then tell what you did with it, verb it. What did you do with it? Okay, here's your opportunity. So I want you to pick that skill, then I want you to tell us what you did with it. That's all we're going to do in this section for this moment. Any questions about how to execute on this? Okay, take a minute, create your action section, the one today.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to take a moment right now while they're working on this particular exercise. It's 5 minutes till 10:30. We've adjusted some of our hours, so there may be folks who need to jump off. So if there's any kind of questions that anybody needs to pose just because of the time portion of things, now would be a good time so that you can get connected with Dan or ask any questions, burning questions before you need to leave.
So Amy, thanks for stepping in. I'm used to going to 11. So the new time is 10:30 stop time. My apologies.
Nope,
I'll
you're
ask for some
good.
great, but good. So
It's
let's do
not
that.
a hard
Let's take a,
stop. So it's just a matter of some
Okay.
folks will be needing to leave, just as a heads up.
no, I get it. And I like to honor commitment of time. So that's my fault. Any questions overall about anybody, from anybody? Okay, again, for anybody that needs to depart, and I honor that, my fault, that the offer is still out there for the free consultation, just send me that email. Okay. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's go back and let's reset that minute. So take a minute and create your action section with that one specific skill that we're focused on here.
Dan, you're muted. I can see you're talking, but you're muted, just so you're aware.
No wonder there was no response. So my fault. Thank you. Okay. So let me get back here. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me re-ask the question. My fault. Thanks for catching that trend. Who has an example of the action? Who has an example of an action we can use?
Well, I can follow on with that process problem that we had, the rollout
Yeah.
contract.
Okay, now just to frame it up for everybody, remember in this scenario, we've already given all the background, the summary, we've already told them the problem. So now we're getting just the part that you did the connection. So, okay, go for that, please.
Recognizing that new process review had not been rigorous, I undertook a reanalysis of the processes to validate our assumptions. I discovered and corrected a process error leading to overbilling by contracted partners.
Awesome. So the core of that, Douglas, is fabulous. Recognition, action, alluding to results, killer good. Now, what we're going to do is refine it so that it comes across best, that associates you with success. Because naturally, what you did is you kind of talked about the problem again. In the description of what you did, you're using the other side of the coin, the negative side. So I'm going to have you read that again, then I'll just pause you and we'll substitute some positive language. So give me that again.
Well, if I get rid of that first half a sentence.
Okay, take a second, rework it, and then give us that version. Now, I'm going to challenge you right up front. I want you to say I. You didn't say I in there in the beginning. Start off with I did, I led, whatever that was. Just make sure you're the center of the action.
Yeah, well, eliminating about the first 8 words, we've got.
Good.
I undertook reanalysis of the processes.
Okay, pause.
Mhm.
Undertook. Is there a better word that's more powerful, more action oriented? Probably. Undertook, there's a connotation of, okay, I kind of did it. It's weird, but my mind goes, is that an undertaker? Again, I'm all about the psychology of career search. So I help people really nuance this stuff. So instead of undertaking, say, I created, I led, I executed something that is strong and valuable. So why don't you use executed for the moment?
Shift it over to okay.
Okay, give us that version. I executed it.
Okay. Try this. I reanalyzed the new processes to validate our assumptions, discovering and correcting errors
Okay,
leading
pause.
to over.
You could say, instead of saying correcting errors, you could say which optimized the process or which ensured 100% satisfaction or something like that. Again, these are nuances. Okay, keep going. Don't have to reword it. Just keep going.
And the closing piece is correcting process errors leading to overbilling by contracted partners.
Okay, so instead of correcting process errors, which optimize the production process, again, once you guys get used to this, it's going to become second nature to you. So awesome. Douglas, thank you for laying that out there. So that is what you guys need to do with each of your actions. Again, we're looking at 3 actions for each of your section, the action sections. Okay, now we're going to pull it together. The result is where you pull it all together and understand this is important. So stick with me for a second. A source story has balance. There's parts that relate to each other. It's almost like the 2 sides of the coin. What I'm talking about here is the obstacle is the negative thing that was happening to the company. The result is the positive thing that you provided to the company. They have to relate. They're the opposite sides of that coin, but they have to be related. Even the metrics, when you say they were losing $1 million, when you get to result, you would say something like, and I exceeded $1 million in positive profit. So the things have to be related. That's how the story is structured. So in the result, you're saying, based on the positive process that I created, write that down. Based on the positive process that I created or initiated or executed. You're putting yourself in that driver's seat. So that's the first part, based on the positive or the successful project I led. And then you talk about what you delivered, what the value is. What is the thing that you delivered that was positive? Not measuring it yet, just saying what the value was. Created a positive result, created process improvement, created a mentoring process which increased engagement, all those things. And then the third part is where you actually do the measurement. Again, here's the metric. It's the numbers that we've been talking about ad nauseum. It relates to that obstacle you had up above, but it's bigger. We always want to exceed what we talked about earlier. Here's a couple of examples. Based on the successful slice and enforcement strategy that I led, I significantly increased profitable revenue. This dramatically accelerated revenue growth by over 70%. The bottom line positive result is that my project increased software sales revenue by over $1 million every single year. Based on the process I led, what did you do? How was it measured? So take a second and do that. So each of you create your result section, just one thing. A good lead-in sentence. The thing you did that was valuable, and then the measurement. All right, great job. Does anyone have an example that they could share? So lastly, does anyone have any questions on how to create your results section?
I have a question on the adjectives, because perhaps I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but I thought that you have to be kind of careful that you don't puff it up so much so that it isn't meaningful. I guess it's a fine line, you know, to get attention but not overdo it.
Of course, it's a fine line. You're right on the money. So do I ever want you to lie? Absolutely not. Do I always want you to express it in the most truthful but ultimate way? Absolutely. So that's the balance. So Carol, give me an example maybe of something that you're thinking about. Well, what am I doing here? Is there something you're thinking of specifically?
Well, I'm just thinking, I mean, for example, my deals were big deals, some of them. I mean, multi-billion dollar deals, but I guess I should say that because they were, but maybe some people might interpret it as puffing. I don't know.
Okay, that's a really valid question. Again, valid question. So the answer is, if you did it, say it. Unless, here's the caveat. Santa Claus. So the caveat is, for instance, again, remember your audience, customize audience. If you used to work at a $20 billion corporation, a $1 billion deal is significant, but it's kind of par for the course.
Mhm.
If you're going after a startup company that's only going to have, I'm going to be extreme again, $1,000 in revenue, you'd probably scare them with the number billion. So in that instance, you wouldn't say billion, you would say huge savings or whatever it was. So
Okay.
that's the way to nuance that, to play the game, as it were. Never lying, but using the best that's most appropriate, that shows you in the best light.
Okay.
Great question. All right. So we're going to jump to the end because I know we're over time. Thanks for your patience today. I hope this was valuable. So again, I just want to offer that free consultation. You guys have the email. It's about helping you. Send me an email. We'll set up a time for a 20-minute Zoom to help you guys out. So before I get off, just want to see if you guys had any other questions about anything else that we've discussed here today. All right. So thank you guys. You probably can tell I love this. I love helping people. I'm really passionate about it. So it's always a pleasure for me to be able to give back and help you guys. So you guys are all great. You guys have had great examples today. Even those you didn't have a chance to share. I know you're thinking and you're executing. Here's the last thing. How many source stories do you create? As many as you can. How do you start? Start off with the most important skill. Then just add another one tomorrow, another one this week, and you just keep adding and you build up your library of source stories. That's the way to go about doing this. Start off with the skills that are most important to the company that you're targeting for the hiring manager that you'll be talking to. Awesome. All right, guys. You guys have a great rest of your meeting. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Best of everyone. All right. Take care.
Thanks so much, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as Dan mentioned, clearly we're over time. One of the things that is, typically a standard thing with all of our meetings is giving attendees and, an opportunity to introduce themselves. For anyone that wants to hang around to introduce themselves, we can certainly do that. I did make a list of people that had joined at one point. We can run through that list if people want to introduce themselves. Let me see if I can pull up. I don't know if in our slides, if we have our standard slide for, give me a second here.
As you're getting to that, Trent,
Yeah, go for it, Amy.
I guess just also from the participants that are left, there's about 10 or so of you. Is it beneficial that you guys introduce yourselves in a typical fashion that's on that slide of just practicing and being able to say, this is who I am, this is who I'm targeting, and really to help facilitate connections between all of you? Would that be beneficial today at the moment?
Yes, because I've got some specific companies I'd like to throw out there to see if people have anybody that they know at those.
Awesome. I
Okay.
did not catch who that was.
Oh,
Who-
sorry, Stephen.
Okay, Stephen, perfect. There you are, Stephen. So why don't you start off, Stephen?
Okay. My name is Stephen Stump. I'm a marketing leader, so I'm looking for positions at higher level of marketing. And this past week, I just because they had opportunities out there, all these companies are basically SaaS companies. Most of them in Boulder, a couple in Denver. But I was wondering if anybody had any contacts at Greenhouse, Splunk, Fivetran, and Better Cloud are the three that I've been kind of targeting this week. So it's Greenhouse, Splunk, Fivetran, and Better Cloud.
Anyone?
Hey, Steve, I don't directly. I kind of know the space. Those are all pretty well-known companies, but I don't actually. So, but yeah, so I guess it's all. But they have pretty good presence. A lot of them, Splunk in particular, I know has a huge presence here in Colorado. So you should be able to find a way to network in there.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other thoughts for Stephen?
Trent,
Okay.
would you be able to stop sharing your slides so that we can see everybody a little bit bigger?
Sure. Hang on a second. Let me actually, now that I think about it, let me stop the recording.